Hello and welcome back to CultureCrash, the pop culture podcast that explores today's trends and cultural movements. I'm your host, Emma. Today's episode is all about microtrends. If you're not fluent in the world of TikTok and Instagram, this phrase might be new to you. To put it simply, microtrends are fashion movements and styles that last for extremely short periods of time. Something that's trending one day might be completely chuggy, as Gen Z calls it, by the next month. I've seen this in my own work. As some listeners may know, I work in influencer marketing. I've seen so many different trends pass through their accounts so quickly. For example, a few months ago, a ton of influencers we work with were posting photos with furry bags. However, a few weeks ago, when we suggested to the influencers that we feature these items, they said they were on their way out and no longer cool. But why does this matter, outside of trying to stay trendy at all times? For one, microtrends are not very sustainable. Fashion sustainability is all about re-wearing pieces for as long as possible and sourcing them from sustainable sources if possible. Microtrends make this extremely difficult because they only last for a little while. Pieces end up being discarded quickly after they're purchased, not reworn, and they're often purchased from cheap overseas fast fashion marketplaces such as Shein, which is a Chinese company that has been accused of child labor and unfair working conditions. I've personally seen so many giant Shein hauls where young women are spending up to $500 or $600 on trendy pieces they'll only wear like one time. Even though they could afford to buy a few timeless pieces from a sustainable source with that money, many teens feel pressured to keep up on all the trends and spend their money on that week's micro-trend. There's another reason besides sustainability, and that's mental health. You might think, what the heck does trendy fashion have to do with mental health? Well, it all boils down to social media. When young teens are constantly bombarded with influencers boasting the latest trends, they might feel left out if they aren't able to participate financially or logistically. We all know unrealistic expectations on social media can be hard on Gen Z, and microtrends that only last 1 week and are impossible to get on only make it worse. One of the best ways to hop on a trend without giving in to the micro-trend is to analyze what you truly like about the trend. So what are the micro-trends that have been popping up on social media lately? One of them, for example, is the so-called coconut girl aesthetic. This style consists of beaded necklaces, bodycon cuts, and hibiscus Hawaiian floral prints. It's very summery and cute, but it definitely won't last. If it's the fun colors you like about this trend, consider investing in a more repeatable piece in a summery color. If it's the Hawaiian hibiscus print, consider a more timeless floral piece that can transition into other seasons. Avoiding microtrends is really about exploring your personal style and seeing how you can be inspired but not bought over by these fast-moving trends. It's also worth noting that a ton of microtrends actually lend themselves to longer-term trends. As Stylecaster explains, they can still lend themselves to overall aesthetics, like the resurgence of Y2K-inspired apparel or the sudden popularity of 70s-esque maximalist colors and prints. Before buying, ask yourself if you're purchasing the item for the microtrend or if you genuinely like the style and attributes of that piece and where the piece might take you in the future. The real question is, how do you go about developing a personal style that isn't just built on social media and microtrends? Well, I had such a tough time with this personally. In high school, I had to wear a uniform all the way from 6th grade to senior year, so when I went into college, pretty much all of my fashion sense was built on Pinterest boards, and I really had to build my wardrobe from the ground up. So one thing that really helped me was building something called a capsule wardrobe. If you're not familiar, it's a term that was coined by Susie Faux, who is a fashion designer, and basically a capsule wardrobe denotes a small collection of garments designed to be worn together, which harmonize in color and line. And for those of us who don't speak fluent fashion, that basically just means a bunch of pieces that you can style together and mix and match. When you have a lot of basics that go together, you constantly have new ways to create unique outfits and base outfits to accessorize in fun ways, like with bags, accessories, and jewelry. I also found thrifting to be a great way to develop a personal style. Microtrends aren't usually in thrift stores because they move so fast, so they're usually only at the mall, but thrift stores challenge you to really explore what types of pieces and cuts you enjoy and how you might style them. And in addition to that, thrifting is also just a very sustainable option, as you're not encouraging retail and fast fashion stores to produce more garments and instead buying things that have already enjoyed their first life. So that's the T on microtrends. The TLDR, microtrends are neither sustainable nor ethical, and there are way better ways to build your own personal style. That's all we have on today's episode of Culture Crash. Join us next week as we dive into what's trending on next week's Top 40. Until then, stay cool.